Exciting episode and update because if you haven't heard yet, one of my biggest manifestations of all time that I've been holding for what feels like the longest time ever is coming to life right now as we speak. Me and my husband and Millie, my little doggy, are moving to Maui. It is official. We are moving there full time. So we have been living there sort of part-time, right? We've had our condo for the past couple years, almost 3 years now. And we have loved going back and forth. Every time I go there, I don't want to come back. And so now we are officially selling our home in LA, selling our condo in Maui, and moving into a full-time home in Maui. So I'm so excited to share this journey with you today on this episode, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how this dream started and how I have manifested it. All right, because it's a true manifestation. So Maui feels like one of those places that is just part of my soul curriculum. I swear, it's just one of those places where I remember the first time that I ever went there. I was 11 years old. My dad brought me and my sisters there. And I remember just feeling like I was at home. And it was so weird because we went to other islands and I really enjoyed them. I really enjoyed the other islands, but there was something about Maui that I was absolutely in love with that felt so me. And so, like I said, the feeling was just at home. And I remember going snorkeling there and just thinking this is the best day of my entire life when I was like 11 years old. Now, did I know I was going to move there? Not so sure. I just remember being in love with it. And then we had so much fun that I remember we went back with my dad when he got remarried. He got remarried in Maui. And so he brought us back and I just absolutely loved it. Like, I just knew it was one of my places, or not one of my places. It was my place. But this is when I was like 11, 12, 13, right? Like in my preteen years. And it was a long time until I went back because it wasn't a place that I wanted to move to right away. I remember when I was in high school and in college, like I was dreaming of living in a big city because I am from the Midwest. I'm from St. Louis, which is, it's a city, but I lived about an hour away from the city. And I wanted to have an experience of a big city. So that's why initially my first manifestation was I wanted to move to New York City, but things did not work out, right? No matter how hard I tried to make that happen and how hard I tried to force it to happen, things didn't align. And I wasn't able to move there. So I kind of surrendered, stayed in the Midwest for college. And then once I graduated from college, I came out to LA. And that was the big city experience that I wanted. And I felt so aligned with that for a lot of my life. It felt like a place I was supposed to be. It really matched my energy. I'm someone who's always been a big dreamer. I've always been really ambitious. I've always dreamed big and wanted to go beyond what my little brain thought was possible. That's why I'm a big dreamer. And I really enjoyed the energy of LA because I felt like it really matched my energy. And the people here really matched my energy with that ambition and that drive and that dreaming big mentality. And so I loved it. And I felt so at home here for a long time. But then it was about so we moved I've lived all over LA, by the way. I've lived in Los Feliz. I've lived in Glendale. I've lived in Koreatown, Hancock Park. I've lived in Venice Beach, and now Sherman Oaks is the place that we live now, but we've been here for the past 9 years. We bought this house 9 years ago. Right after we got married was when we moved into this current house. And it was probably 3 years into living in this house that I just didn't feel aligned anymore, right? So it's been many years. It's been about 6 years that I haven't quite felt aligned with LA anymore. But my husband wasn't on board. My husband was aligned with it. So I have done a lot of mind management. I've been patient. In fact, we were going to move to Maui a couple years ago. It was through the pandemic, and that fell through. So I feel like there was a lesson here. There was a lesson in patience. There was a lesson in creating my own sense of serenity and peace internally without relying on my environment or atmosphere. That was a big part of my work for the past 6 years, I would say. But yeah, I've been wanting to move there now for at least 6 years. In fact, it's so funny because I remember, I don't know if I've always wanted to live in Maui or not. Like, I can't remember. I think I have, because when Josh and I first started dating, this was 14 years ago, and we decided to go on our first vacation together, which was 13 years ago, about a year into dating. You know, we were talking about where we wanted to go, and I said, let's go to Maui, because I hadn't been there since I was 11, or since I was 13. And I remember him saying, wait, what? Like, Maui, like, what do you do there? Do you just like sit on the beach? I was like, yeah, that's exactly what you do. And he was like, I don't get it, right? So growing up, he had never been on a tropical vacation. He'd never been on a beach vacation. His parents were very much like into culture and art. So if they went on a trip, it was to Europe to see all the museums and the arts and the theater and all of that. So that's the only vacation he had ever been on, was, you know, a more cultured kind of like, you know, a place where it's like a city with lots of history and stuff like that. And so he did not know what to expect with the tropical island. And I said, are you kidding me? You've never experienced this. We have to do it. And I remember we got there and he was blown away. We stayed at one of my favorite hotels there, the Fairmont in Kealani. And when we got into the lobby, he freaked out. I felt this surge of energy that came through him. And I think it was in that moment that he just got it. And we had the best vacation ever. And I remember telling him, I want to move here one day, right? Like, I either want a place or I want to move here one day. That's a dream of mine. So I've been dreaming of this for a while. And back then he used to freak out by this dream. And when I would tell him I want to move to Maui one day, he kind of resisted it because he would always say, Jamie, like, I love that that's your dream, but I can't do that, right? He's like, I'm a musician. I have to be in LA. And he's like, please don't manifest things that are going to destroy my career. I said, Josh, I would never manifest anything that destroyed your career. I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to manifest that you get on board with this dream. I'm going to manifest that you also one day want to move to Maui. And I'm going to manifest that you can live out your wildest dreams career-wise, and it's going to work out in some weird, miraculous way that you can do it in Maui. And at that time, he was only doing songwriting, so he was in sessions with artists all the time. He had to have a studio in LA. All the sessions were happening. And so I remember even visualizing, I was like, well, in the future, there's probably going to be some kind of virtual thing where you can do virtual sessions, right? Because this was even before Zoom was big, right? We might have like Skype, but it wasn't a big thing. And I was like, yeah, there's probably going to be like 3D people like in these virtual sessions, and you guys will be able to show up as these like holographic, is that the word, holographic figures, and write together. Like, that was my vision of like, something's going to happen to where you can move. Little did I know some things would shift so that he absolutely could move, but we couldn't have known what it was at the time. But it's kind of wild how when you set a desire, you can decide that circumstances align that allows it to happen. Because I think a lot of times when we're dreaming, the thing that gets in the way, or the obstacle that gets in the way of us dreaming, is we think of some kind of obstacle that, let me say that again. Is that we see some kind of obstacle that's getting in the way and we decide we can't have it. Versus envisioning that that obstacle will no longer be there. That obstacle will be sorted out. It will no longer exist, even though you don't know the how, right? I was picturing Josh would still be doing songwriting. We never thought he would have a pivot in his career at all. We thought he'd be songwriting forever. And I thought it was going to be holographic figures that come together in like a virtual session, right? It would be like people, but we would each have our own camera and we could come together in virtual meetings, right? It's so funny, but that's why I want to encourage you, if you have a dream, but it seems like there's obstacles, right? Maybe you're thinking, I don't have the money to do that, or how would I ever do that with my current career? Or maybe you have kids that like to be in certain places. Don't let that stop you from dreaming, because you can have the caveat, have the caveat that things will work out, right? You can add that in. I am manifesting that I can do this thing that my soul feels called to do, and it's all going to work out. And this person's going to get on board with it, right? Or some way, somehow, this is all going to work out. Circumstances are going to shift in a way that it allows it to unfold with grace and ease. So that is my encouragement in case you ever hit up against that. Because I will say, being a dreamer and being someone who is a bit of a rebellious spirit, I am one of those people that are just, I don't take no for an answer. I don't let anything stop me from what I want to do. And this is a blessing and a curse. I will say sometimes that is challenging, right? Because sometimes there's some forceful energy behind it that's not helpful, and I can get impatient and all that kind of stuff. But what's the blessing about it is that I also don't let things that seem to be in the way get in the way, right? So I am someone who is willing to work with obstacles, and I'm willing to keep dreaming anyways. So that's definitely been what the Maui dream and vision has been about, is been holding it even though it didn't seem like it could work out initially, right? And there has been so many of those blocks and obstacles and things. In fact, in 2021, it was during COVID, we had decided we want to move there. We were like ready to move. I mean, so many of us were going through big transitions during COVID and, just shaking up our lives a little bit. And, LA was totally locked down. We couldn't even go to beaches. We couldn't go on hikes for almost the whole summer, probably like 4 or 5 months. And we were just going a little cuckoo. And things were much more, in Maui, there wasn't a surge of COVID like there was here. So things were more relaxed. Like you could go out in nature. There were things that you could do. Of course, things were closed and you had to mask up and all that kind of stuff. But you could at least go outside and do things. And so during that time, we had decided we were going to move there. And we had a realtor. We looked at houses. We looked at several different houses. There was one that I fell in love with that I wanted to make an offer on. And it actually happened to be in Lahaina. And this was before the Lahaina fires happened, like years before. And we were thinking about putting an offer on it. And then Josh kind of stopped us and he was like, I'm not ready. I can't do this. And that was also simultaneously around the time that he got OCD really bad. Not got OCD because he always had it, but it got triggered and activated like never before. And I was on an episode, Josh came on an episode with me earlier in the podcast. So you can look up that episode if you want to, where he talks about this journey. But his OCD got so bad and he realized he really had to focus on his healing and that he was absolutely not in a place to make major moves in his life. So he put that on pause, decided we weren't doing it. I was very, very, very upset because I had been dreaming of this, right? And it's funny because looking back, there's so many things that I see where I'm like, God, I really have been dreaming this for so many years. I even said it in our vows. I said, I promised to move on a tropical island with you, which was kind of a joke to him because it wasn't what he really wanted, but he knew I really wanted it. Anyways, he decided not to do it. And I remember being so upset. I was so mad at him. I was so resentful for a long time. We had to work through this because I'm like, how do you do that? How do you tell me we're going to do it? This is one of my biggest dreams ever. We go look at houses and then you just decide you can't. And, you know, I came to some understanding after seeing what he was going through, and I had to be patient and I had to be kind with him because I understood, right? I had compassion for it, but I also had compassion for me, who felt like my biggest dream was about to manifest and then it was just pulled away. And that now we have to live in LA even longer, and it wasn't somewhere that I was feeling aligned with anymore. So I was really frustrated by that. But I'll tell you what we decided to do. And this might be helpful if you're trying to manifest something, or if there's something you've wanted to manifest for a long time, but it just feels like it's not happening. Or maybe it was an almost and then it didn't happen, right? Like there was an almost where we were almost going to move there and then it didn't happen. What I would recommend is consider what baby steps can you take? How can you do it in a way where it's not just all or nothing, right? Sometimes this really helps our system become a match to it. And it also creates the safety of doing it. And for me, I felt safe doing. I'm someone who I'm good with making changes, right? But my husband, he really likes to feel super solid in things. He takes more time. He has to feel much more comfortable with a decision. He thinks things through way more than I do, right? I'm kind of like, my gut says yes, let's go. He's like, let's think through all the pros and all the cons. My brain is like, oh my gosh. But I knew it would create more safety in him if we took baby steps. So instead of just moving there at that time, what we decided to do was just go there more often to get in the energy of it. And that was his promise to me, since we didn't end up moving there. He's like, let's go there more. So what we started doing was going there twice a year. Right? And before that, we had never gone that much. We would go every other year, maybe. That would be our vacation. So we started going, getting a feel for the island. We would rent Airbnbs, for a week at a time, twice a year. And we just started going more often. And with every time we went, of course, I had always been in love with it, but Josh started falling more and more in love with it. And to the point where he said, well, what if we, instead of just making the move, since he didn't feel comfortable, he was like, what if instead we get a condo, right? And that's what I was like, yes. I don't know if he decided or I thought of this, but we decided, okay, let's take steps instead of doing it all at once. And we decided we wanted to manifest a second home there so that we could go back and forth, so that he felt comfortable here in LA and had his music. And then I got to experience my Maui dream. And every time I go there, I feel so lit up and my soul feels so happy. It feels so in alignment. So we decided to manifest that, even though at that time we did not have the circumstances. We did not have the money to have a second home at all. No reason we should have been dreaming for that, right? But we decided, again, I decide what I want before I decide how it's going to happen, right? I decide I'm going to manifest something, and then I trust that the universe will conspire upon my behalf and things will work out. If this is what's meant to be, the universe is going to support it as long as I hold on to the vision and I just keep taking steps towards it. And funny enough, I think I've shared this on the podcast before, but it was wild because when we both got on board with this idea of getting a condo, right? A second place there, it was wild. 2 weeks later, 1 or 2 weeks later is when Josh's lawyer called him and said, hey, there's been an offer on your publishing, right? Or a portion of your publishing for his music. And this was something he had never, ever, ever thought about doing. It wasn't in his mind. He didn't even see this as, a resource of ours. But this was an amazing offer that was made because at that time, investors were really investing in songs. They were investing in publishing, and they were buying portions of people's catalogs. And he had been a songwriter and he had had many songs in that catalog. And someone made the most incredible offer that was just impossible to refuse. That offer gave us way more than the down payment that we needed for a second home. So we decided we are going to just shift the resources. We are going to move it from this channel of abundance into another investment, which would be the condo that we're also able to enjoy. So wild how that happens when things are in alignment and you just decide to dream it and go for it and decide that you can have it and that decide that you can figure out a way. Wild things happen, miracles happen. So this was a true miracle. So he decided to sell a portion of his publishing, and then a year later, we got our amazing, amazing condo that I have absolutely loved. And that was a true gift in so many ways because it allowed me to go to Maui many times a year. Last year, I went 6 times, and it was a dream, and I loved every single time there. But it also made Josh feel like, yeah, this is where I want to move full time, right? He's like, I know this is where we belong. I see Jamie so happy here. He's like, he started not feeling aligned with LA. And then also, I forgot to share this part of the story, but after his OCD journey, or through the middle of it, he also had a big opening and awakening and kind of realized he no longer wanted to solely be a songwriter. He decided he wants to be an artist and that he wants to go back to his roots of classical music and do modern classical composing. So throughout that time when the world kind of shut down and he didn't have songwriting sessions or anything going on, he moved into becoming an artist and he wrote a piano album, one of which helped him heal his OCD. It's called Hymns for Troubled Times, which was very successful. It's been really successful on all platforms, iTunes, on Apple Music, on Spotify, all the platforms. And, it's gotten on huge playlists and people love it. And then he came out with another album and now he's coming out with his next huge album. But with that pivot, that's where my initial instinct of circumstances are going to align to where he can do this and he can live out his dream. Because now that he shifted from becoming a songwriter into becoming an artist, he can do that from anywhere in the world. And on top of it, everything's so international. All of the calls that he has as is are now on Zoom or on FaceTime. So I wasn't wrong with thinking there was going to be some kind of virtual hologram where he could have meetings. That thing was called Zoom. And that was far before that was really a thing. So that all aligned. So that's also why he now feels comfortable and he's excited about moving his whole studio to Maui. So yeah, things have unfolded. And has the whole journey felt easy? Absolutely not. There's been some ups and some downs and thinking we're going to move and then not moving and then getting the condo. And that's been great. But me still knowing I want to be there full time and just having to hold space and patience and all of that, believing that one day it would absolutely happen. And that one day is happening super soon because we have decided to make the move. So we are officially selling our condo. We are officially getting our LA house on the market. We're selling both of those. And then we are going to find our full-time home in Maui. And this whole journey is truly right now a journey of major surrender because we are living in our house while we sell it, and we don't want to have a third property before everything sells. So we are waiting for things to sell to move there, but that also means I don't know, are we going to rent? What kind of rentals are going to be available? Or are we going to find something that we want to buy right away? Don't know. I haven't been in this place in a while. I've actually never been in this place where I just have I have. When I moved to LA, I had no idea where I was moving. That's true. That's the only time I've ever been like, I don't know where I'm moving. I'm just driving out here. And that's what it feels like with this is we don't know, like, what part of the island are we going to be on? Is there going to be, the right rental for us? Or are we going to find a house to buy initially? It really is about finding a place that has space for Josh's studio. So that's always a big thing is it's kind of about the house. But of course, y'all know I've been manifesting exactly what I want. But I just love the whole island of Maui. So I'm really leaving the location up to the universe. And I truly believe that we are going to find a place that feels like absolute heaven. And I'm so excited to see where that ends up being. Like, we're open to the beach cities like Kihei or like Napili Bay. We're also, open to upcountry living or haiku where it's rainier and more of a rainforest. Like, I don't know where we're going to land, but I'm excited to see, and I'm excited to share this journey with you. It's wild, right? And my realtor was in Maui. His name's Sam. He's awesome. He's like, you guys are just going to have to be in the flow. Like, let it flow, like one thing at a time. Just like believe that you can get in the flow and it's all going to unfold. And I truly am sticking with that intention of just being in the flow and trusting and surrendering, because we don't know when the condo is going to sell. We also don't know when the house will sell. So we don't know the exact time that we're moving. And we don't know, are we going to get a house that's furnished or not? And, what do we need to sell, what not? It's something that we can't totally plan everything. And we have to just trust our instincts with a lot of it. So right now we are doing major decluttering. We just got our condo on the market like 1 day ago. And so that's super exciting. And then in our LA house, we're just, we've been living here 9 years. So we have a lot of stuff and we're just majorly decluttering right now. We're getting the house ready to get on the market. So if y'all could send me good vibes for all of this, for selling 2 places at once and then finding a home to move into that feels really aligned, I will take all your positive vibes and your positive energy. This is the journey. And some of the words that are coming to me for this next chapter are simplification. I want a simpler life, right? I've had 2 homes the past 3 years. Our house in LA was pretty big, a lot to take care of. We had a huge yard with lots of landscaping, which all sounded great, like a pool, a hot tub, all the things that I manifested way back in the day. But even with having, gardeners and pool people, like, it's been a lot to manage on top of Josh has his career. I have my career. So I'm really feeling called for simplification. Maybe it's a little bit of a smaller home that has everything that we need in terms of layout. It has the studio. It has my office. It has a guest room for guests. It has our bedroom, but like a bit smaller and simpler than what we have, which is a part of why I'm also feeling called to rent, because when you rent, you don't have to take care of all of those things. So that is enticing to me, but I am open. We're going to see what the universe has in store for us. But simplification is big. And I'm just so excited to be in that energy because there's so many hobbies that I absolutely love that are there. So one of the things that makes my soul happier than probably anything else in the world is humpback whales. I don't know what it is. I have some kind of karmic connection to them. That is for sure. I love all sea life. Like me and my sisters, I don't know, we came in, it's funny because we're all like born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, and we lived in Michigan. We did not live by the ocean in any way, shape, or form, but all of us are absolutely obsessed with sea life and ocean, and we call ourselves whale whisperers. We all went on a trip to Maui. They came to my condo like one last time before we put it on the market. And like Josh was cracking up because he's just like, I've never seen people who love little sea creatures so much. Like, you guys just freak out about anything. And that is very true for me. So I know I'll probably do something with that, whether it's volunteering or, I don't know, maybe I'll go back to school and like part-time and get a degree in marine biology. I have no idea, but I know there's something there for me. And it might be just volunteer stuff there with the Whale Foundation or at the Maui Ocean Center. I don't know, but I am feeling called to have that. And so I just see more hobbies there. Here in LA, the way that I felt is a bit stagnant and stuck. And I'll tell you why. It's kind of like I have my beautiful home that I love that's in the hills, but the minute you go down the hill, it feels so chaotic for me. Like even parking is just a nightmare. It's a chore sometimes. Like, it takes an hour just to go park at a coffee shop sometimes midday, right? And like, so I just rarely leave whenever I'm in LA because I just can't handle the way that I feel on the roads here. So I felt a little stuck and stagnant and kind of like I can have hobbies, but it feels like it's at the expense of my nervous system driving around LA. So I tend to not do much other than just a lot of like when I'm here, I double down on work and, you know, I do stuff in the house and I meditate and I walk in the neighborhood and stuff, but I felt a little stuck. So I'm so excited to be in Maui and be able to go out and pop into a coffee shop with ease or just go to the store with ease and have some community and maybe be a part of like a canoe club where I get to be on the ocean because that's my happy place, and to be able to walk on the beaches and have a lot more nature, a lot of more stillness, and a smaller community, you know? So I'm super, like beyond super excited about that. Now, you may be wondering what kind of manifestation practices I have been using towards this, since I have been manifesting this for what feels like forever. And I've been seeing it. In fact, it's so funny because as I'm decluttering, look here, I got like vision boards upon vision boards from the years. And if you are looking on YouTube, because my podcast is on YouTube. So every single one of them has like tons of pictures of Maui and homes in Maui and the mountains and the ocean and the whales and me paddleboarding. And yeah, totally. These are all Maui. And this was from years ago. I mean, that was my 100K vision board. So that had to be about 9 years ago, right? When I was manifesting my first 100K. So I have absolutely been using vision boards, and evidence shows because I've been pulling them all out as I've been decluttering my office. And I'm like, wow, I have been calling this one in for a while. So it'll be fun to see where we land and which picture it aligns with, because I have many different houses on these vision boards. But yeah, vision boarding is huge, visualization huge. I definitely see it. And then also the going there and being in the energy of it. So I said there's a power in baby steps. And I think this is really helpful with manifestation. So you don't have to be all or nothing, especially if you're not in a place where you can afford something, or if you are not in a place where you're actually able to do it. Like for many years, I couldn't actually move here full time because I had a husband who was working in LA. And unless we decided to split ways or something, which was not going to happen, it wasn't in alignment. So I just wasn't ready. We weren't ready to move there. So that's where the power of baby steps. And that was part of my practice, was deciding, okay, I'm going to stretch the amount of times that I vacation there. And yes, was it stretchy sometimes? Yes. But every time I was there, I would get into the energy and feel like one day we're going to move here. One day we're going to move here. One day I wonder where it's going to be. And I would dream about it, just being in the space of it. And I remember whenever I first moved out to LA, when I wanted to manifest being in a house, and I would drive through neighborhoods and be like, oh my gosh, what would it be like to afford a house in LA one day? Whoa. And like, I would drive through the neighborhoods and pretend it was mine and pretend it was me pulling out of the neighborhood, right? And that's kind of what I did in Maui. I would go around and kind of like live into as if I was like a local there, and what that feels like, and what would my grocery store be, and what would my Target be, and what would this, you know? And so the baby steps, that was a big manifestation practice. And also, I love looking on Redfin, Zillow, always looking at what's on the market and just playing. Like, even though I was not in a place to buy at that time, or we weren't ready for it, we were constantly looking. So that was definitely a manifestation practice. And then speaking it into existence. I've been doing that for a long time. Like I said, I mean, in my wedding vows, I said, I promised to move to a tropical island with you. Like, I was dead set on it, even though Josh wasn't ready. And it was like, he had a laugh with those vows. I was like, no, that is what's happening. So if you're marrying me, you're getting on board with that. So yeah, I've been speaking it into existence. I mean, y'all know, if you've been in my world for a while, how obsessed I am with Hawaii and how called I felt to move there. And so I speak it out a lot and tell people that I'm going to move there. Wild story also, that it's been shared on this podcast because I had the coach Jackie DeCrinis on, who's an amazing life coach. And she was on the podcast. And funny enough, how did me and Jackie meet? I met her because I bought this LA home from her. We met whenever I was buying the house. So she used to live here. And then her and her husband moved to Maui from this LA house that I live in. And I remember whenever I first met them and we had put an offer and they accepted it and they said, well, we're moving to Maui. And I said, oh my gosh, after I live in this house, I'm going to move to Maui too. That's where we're moving next. And I just knew it. I just said it. I was like, so we'll see you there in like a couple years. They moved there and she ended up becoming a life coach. It's just this wild story, right? She was in television before, but she ended up becoming a life coach. So we really connected over that. And then whenever I go to Maui, I get to see her. We bought our condo and she was really helpful in terms of that. And we've become friends. But yeah, so in terms of speaking it into existence, like they told us this was 9 years ago that they were moving there from this home. And I said, well, we're going to move there next. And I said it with such solid belief and just knowing. And this was before Josh was on board, but I just kept saying it. I was speaking it into existence, right? So it works. I also have journaled about this, written about it, I do ideal scenarios of a day in the life of. I've done future self meditations. In fact, I have a meditation called Becoming an Energetic Match to Money meditation that I personally recorded for myself first, and then I started offering it. We'll put the link in the show notes for it if you want to get it. But every time I would do that meditation, I was in Maui. So I would see myself there in meditations. I would see myself there in the future. And not even just myself, but ourselves. I would see me and Josh and Millie. I had all these like visions of what it would be. Never super specific, but I have a couple of different visions of what it is. So in meditation, I've used that as my manifestation practice, and I have just written about it for so many years. I think every manifestation journal that I have, every goals that I have, it includes that for sure. So I have used all the practices on it. I even have in Pinterest a Pinterest board that's like Maui living. And it has the homes that I would want, what kind of lifestyle that I want. And I've just pinned different things and restaurants that I want to go to and all of that. And so yeah, I've been calling this in for a while. So I'm super excited for y'all to be on the journey with me. And I'm so excited to keep you posted as it all unfolds. One day, it's going to be so fun to be like, which one day soon, I'm going to be like, hey, y'all, I'm just recording this podcast from my studio in Maui. And it'll be fun to say where I end up landing. I'm not sure where we're going to end up. So it's fun to think about. So thanks for being on the journey and joining in for this episode where I share about my heartfelt dream. And I hope this encourages you to think about what your soul desires, what your heartfelt dream is, and to decide that even if circumstances aren't aligned with it yet, you can still decide to manifest it. You can decide to envision it. You can decide that it's done, it's happening, it's unfolding. And just watch how the universe conspires upon your behalf.